name is Eric Brevik, and I'm here to talk to you today about soils and human health in the COVID-19 era. As we go through this, I want to just quickly say that the building of this presentation, a number of the papers it's built off of, have actually been developed with several of the people who are probably in on the Zoom call today. And so I want to convey to you that I really appreciate that opportunity to work with you on these issues, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. So moving on from here, just as we look at soils and human health, just in general, we know that there are many links between soils and human health. Those links are both positive and negative. On the negative side, for example, we can be exposed to pathogens which cause disease. We have dust, which can be an issue either directly or indirectly itself. We can breathe dust into our lungs, which can cause lung issues directly, or dust can carry pathogens or contaminants on it, which can cause other issues with human health. And then, of course, contaminants within the soil, heavy metals, organic chemicals, other things like that can cause issues for us as well. But soils do have positive influences on our health. They transfer essential nutrients from soil to plants to humans through the food web. We derive a number of our medications from soil, and soils can be very important in terms of filtering our environmental media. For example, water is a huge one, right? We have water that infiltrates through soil. There might be contaminants within it. Soil can remove those contaminants, and so when that soil moves through the soil system at the bottom of the soil, we end up with a purified, cleaned water. So there's lots of ways soils can influence our health. And then on each of these slides, let's point out that down at the bottom of each slide, there is a note as to the reference through which the material on that slide is coming from. So if you're wondering where you might go to get more information, obviously we have a very brief presentation here today, about 20 minutes, but there's more information available down in the bottom of the slide. And if you want to access any of these, you don't have access to one of these papers, and you would like to get that access, just contact me, let me know. I'll be happy to pass those along. So COVID-19 and the influence of soils in this world of COVID-19 and on human health. COVID-19 has had a number of influences on world health that have ties back to soil. One of them, of course, is the disruption of the global food supply chain, which has just made food and nutritional security issues that already existed worse than they were to begin with. We know the SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes COVID-19, and a very important distinction here is that SARS-CoV-2 is the virus, COVID-19 is the disease caused by the virus. But we do know, we have documented SARS-CoV-2 within the soil environment. We have a lot of questions about its route of transmission. We'll talk about all these in more detail in a couple of minutes here. Each of these has a slide that goes with them. We have water and wastewater. These are things that interact with soil quite frequently, and so there's a lot of questions about that as regards the virus. Soil pollution and how COVID-19 has influenced soil pollution. We need to look at ways to combat COVID-19 through soils and through agriculture, and biofortification is one way that we might do so. And then as we're looking at these challenges that we have, and then things that COVID-19 has influenced, we also need to look at, okay, so how do we get to the point of reaching solutions? And amongst those, increased cooperation between soil scientists and others that work with human health. That's going to be critical, as is enhanced communication with the public, so the public knows what's going on and can take steps that are required to help with this. So on the disruption of the global food supply chain, it's amazing. Even this has hit countries all over the world. Even In a developed country like the United States, throughout my entire, my lifetime, I've taken it for granted that I can walk down to my local food market and things are just there. Now, certainly we're not starving in the US. There is food, but a lot of the things that I might have taken for granted even a couple of years ago, a number of those things aren't there at this point in time. It definitely has impacted our food supply chain, and it is definitely noticed. It's a major topic of discussion. Disruption of supply chains across the board in the US right now are a major topic of discussion within our society. So we really need to make sure that we strengthen, that we support and strengthen local food production systems so that they're able to supply things that might not be able to be transmitted long distances when a disruption like COVID-19 occurs. There are also things that soil scientists are quite adept in, for example, geospatial decision support systems that we can apply to working on the creation of these local food production systems, predicting, making good choices about land use and which areas can best support what types of systems, all kinds of questions such as these that we as soil scientists can help to address. And of course, we have that local food supply system that helps to combat the disruption of food within our supply systems. Then that's a real positive for our health. The SARS-CoV-2 virus, we don't really understand a lot about this virus right now as relates to soil and survivability. We do know that we can transmit the virus from contaminated materials, waste waters, things like that, into soil. That's been documented. We don't understand very much about survivability of the SARS-CoV-2 virus in the soil and how it might be transmitted from soil into humans, either directly from soil to humans or indirectly through some other means. For example, being on a plant product that's consumed and then transmitted. So we have a very definite need for studies like this. We can say some general things. We know that the SARS-CoV-2 virus is an enveloped virus. We know from previous studies of enveloped viruses in general that they tend to survive for shorter time periods in soil than non-enveloped viruses. And so there are some indications that maybe the SARS-CoV-2 virus will only have a few days of survivability in soil. But these are all conjectures that are being made. They're extrapolations using what we've seen to this point in time in previous studies. They're not based on studies of the SARS-CoV-2 virus specifically. So that's a really big need. Looking at water and wastewater. We know that water and soils are intricately linked, right? I mean, anybody who studies soils also has at least some aspect of water included as well, because they're interlinked systems. And it's very common that we transmit pathogens from water systems into soil. So understanding that relationship, and especially the relationship between wastewaters applied to soil and the SARS-CoV-2 virus, that's really important. This kind of ties back to the previous slide as well, right? We really just don't know a lot about SARS-CoV-2 in the soil environment, but we have to look at all aspects of that relationship. In terms of soil pollution, there have been huge amounts of medical waste that have been generated by the pandemic. There are also a number of other wastes generated as well. On the medical waste front, we got our face masks, our gloves, tissues, empty bottles from soaps and sanitizers. These are some of the things that kind of fall under that. And of course, these are more home medical waste, if you will. We also have the waste generated by the hospitals themselves. There's also a lot of extra waste because of all the shipping. Companies that supply, you can go online, you can order, get things shipped directly to your house. Those companies have seen a real boom in business during COVID-19, but that boom in business with all the shipping materials and packaging materials, that has really increased generation of waste. We've seen a huge uptick in food delivered to people's houses. That leads to a lot of increase in packaging materials, increases our waste. So we've had huge increases in waste products, a lot of which end up in the soil somewhere. You know, they go to a landfill or if they're disposed of properly. But even from there, they might get, some of those things might get loose. They just end up being dumped beside the road. Soil ends up being involved. Back to the second bullet point here, medical waste brings about direct SARS-CoV-2 transmission concerns. What happens? We have contaminated waste, come into contact with the soil. What happens there? Does the virus move into the soil? Can it survive in the soil? How does it move? How long can it survive? So we get back to the previous two slides, but another area we see that coming about. And we have some emergent soil pollution concerns right now, microplastics, antibiotic resistance issues, and this COVID-19 pandemic simply exasperates those concerns as well. When we look at the developing countries of the world, of course, we have some special problems there in that the waste disposal systems in developing countries are not typically as robust as we see in the developed countries. And in particular, abilities to handle hazardous waste, medical waste. They oftentimes, aren't as developed as we see in the developed world countries. And so that creates special challenges in the developing countries as regards this COVID-19 pandemic. We've seen a lot of systems become just completely overwhelmed. Just for example, a couple from China here, you see that in the Hubei province, they had a 600% increase in medical and hazardous waste generation during the COVID-19 pandemic. And in Wuhan City, China, a 400% increase. These are both places that were already right at their limits in terms of the ability to handle hazardous waste, medical waste. And now when you increase the amount of that waste by multiple times, when you're right at that limit already, there just isn't the capacity to handle all that additional waste. So, and by not properly handling it, that increases the likelihood of COVID-19 making its way into the environment, of COVID-19 being transmitted to humans moving through the system. So this is a major concern, the ability to help developing countries address these pollution issues and these waste handling issues. In terms of things that we can do to try to, as soil scientists, as agricultural scientists, to try to help with all of this, well, one of the things that we've definitely noticed, malnutrition's increased during the pandemic, and we know that malnutrition makes people more susceptible to diseases. We also know that biofortification of agricultural crops can create healthier food products, healthier people, and that makes it less likely that people get sick, that we transmit diseases within our societies. So proper nutrition is essential. And as soil scientists, agricultural scientists, we can play a role in that proper nutrition through appropriate nutrient content in the foods that we're raising. That's a really, really important place that we can play a role. And again, that disruption of the global food system really emphasized the importance of locally produced food products. So as agricultural scientists, as soil scientists, we can work with our local farmers and our local agricultural industries to make sure that we have proper nutrition in the foods that are being produced through those. We really need to have increased cooperation between our soil science professionals, our medical professionals, and other groups that work with human health related issues. And I'll bring a few of those up here at the end of the presentation. But there's a lot of actually common interest shared between soil scientists and medical professionals as regards human health. But we don't spend a lot of time talking to each other. Soil scientists and doctors, related medical professionals, we don't spend a whole lot of time actually communicating between each other as professional groups. And so we really need to find ways to encourage that cross-disciplinary cooperation. This is going to mean identifying journals that we can both publish in. And there are some out there, and I don't have time to go into it right now in great detail, but the reference at the bottom of the screen does a lot more to look into that. It might mean some conferences that we have both medical professionals and soil science professionals and others who are interested in this environmental and human health relationship attending and speaking to each other at, and getting to make connections and sharing ideas. And our funding agencies, we need them to put grants forward that provide the funds to carry out these types of efforts. The communication with the public is also really important. A lot of people out there in the general public, they don't actually understand how important soils are to human health, and they don't understand the negative ramifications of just dumping untreated hazardous wastes or medical wastes, or they don't understand the links between application of wastewater that has pathogen contamination into soils and transmission of disease within our communities. And so these are the kinds of things that we need to be doing as soil scientists. We need to be reaching out to the public, talking to them, making them aware of what we do, why it's important, why they should pay attention to it, why they should know something about it. And as a side benefit of this, there are studies that show that the public funds things. A lot of our funding for science comes from public sources, right? So our government sources. So the public funds things, the government funds things that the public views as being important. There are diseases out there, cancer, for example, gets a massive amount of research attention and research funding. People are aware of cancer, they know of it, they understand how it impacts their lives. There are other diseases that kill as many people a year as cancer does, as various cancers do, that don't get nearly the attention and the funding. The public's not aware of them. Now, of course, soils aren't a disease, but getting funding for soils work would really benefit from the public understanding that importance of soils to them, and that includes the importance of soils to human health. We need, as soil scientists, we need to learn new techniques to address soils and human health. We need to look at what's out there and learn from other fields that do a lot of this work with human health. Our traditional techniques really don't adequately address the complex links we see between soils and human health. So we need to look at epidemiologists, for example. We need to look at other medical related fields and find out the ways that they have used to investigate these. And epidemiologists are a fantastic example because they very directly address the links between the environment and human health. They don't focus on soil specifically, but they do look at these complex links. We can use the things that they have developed over the years, that they have identified as working over the years, and apply that to the soil and human health question. This includes causal diagrams, marginal structural models, propensity score methods, machine learning, which we do some machine learning in the world of soils and agriculture. We don't do a lot of the first three. that I brought up. And again, there's a paper reference on there that can give you more information. We're running out of time, and I've got to finish up, so there's time for questions. But so to wrap things up, we need to understand relationships between SARS-CoV-2, how it's transferred from contaminated waste into environmental media like soil and water. Once it's there, we need to understand its survivability in those environments, the things that influence the survivability, and we need to understand the transmission of SARS-CoV-2 from and between our various environmental media. How does it get from water to soil or soil to water? Do we get protection of our groundwater through that soil filter? Things like that. We have to be able to effectively test for SARS-CoV-2 in soil and water. We don't really have good tests for that at this point in time. There are people that are working on it, people that are trying. Their testing's been done, but it's not really robust. We need to, as developing countries, we have developed countries, those countries need to help developing countries to deal with this. This is a global pandemic. It's a global health problem. We need to work as a global community to address this problem. And those that have more resources need to help those that have less, so that we can address the challenges that we face. And of course, as a part of this, our developed countries need to really help on that medical and hazardous waste disposal capacity front, because we've seen a number of places it's simply been overwhelmed. We need to work on that local food production, the quality and the quantity. We need to improve our communication, both between soil scientists and other medical professionals, as well as with the general public. We need to bring about new techniques or learn new techniques as a field to address these complex questions. And then I said I get to at the end of the presentation, but you can see here a list, and this is not a comprehensive list, but there are lots of different fields that as soil scientists we need to be working with on this soil and human health issue and on this COVID-19 and how soils can help address our COVID-19 challenges issue. That includes agronomists, biologists, crop scientists, geographers, geologists, medical professionals, social scientists. There are a lot of different fields that work on different aspects of what we need to accomplish. And it's going to be very important that we can collaborate with those fields and work with them. With that, that is my presentation. So I thank you for being here with me for that. And I'll be around for questions, actually live. If we end up watching this recording as opposed to me giving it live. So ready for the questions.
So really we are enjoying so much your presentation, Professor Eric. It is so nice. It is very important to alarm now about the COVID-19 and the many problems, because a lot of people speaking about the vaccination, about the medical treatment and so on, but no one now speak about the role of soil and water, and how what we need to do, what we need to we need a special handling or treatment for soil and water, because soil and water have a lot of direct and indirect effect about the spreading this COVID-19. And as you said, we need new techniques to how to handling, how to get the soil sampling and new techniques for analysis, for more explanation about this problem. I need to ask if anyone has a question for Professor Eric after. Maybe Galaxy. I don't know the name, but this is Galaxy Note. Can you please start with? Yeah, can you speak, please? Mm, can you ask please Galaxy Note 3 Roro? We are listening. Please, we have to be in hurry because the time is so much and we haven't enough time. Please, maybe maximum 10 minutes and the program will be closed. Yeah, please. Any other place? Mm-hmm.
No.
Yes. Okay, I can, Professor Eric. We are now we have a very, very difficult nightmare, it could be said. Everything is closed, everything is changed. All the world changed after COVID-19. To be honest, what your opinion? Do you have any explanation in the future? Is there any solution about this a global crisis? Please, just.
Yeah, well, I mean, and certainly, like I said in the presentation, one big part of this is it is a global crisis. We need a global solution. If we have all the different, if all these different countries and different places doing different things, it really minimizes the effectiveness. And we actually, even here in the United States, we see that quite a bit. People tend to look at us as one country, and we are one country, but the individual states within the United States have a lot of autonomy in what they're able to do and how they run things. And so we have, within the US, we have 50 different states. We also have 50 different approaches to COVID-19. And some states have taken a very aggressive stance to try to address it with vaccines, with masks, with other steps like that, with shutdowns. And yet the state right next door might not be doing any of those things or not doing them overly aggressively. And so we might see a reduction in the state that's taking a lot of those steps, and the state next door that's not. We get a flare up of COVID-19, and once it flares in one place, it spreads, right? It makes its way out into other areas. So one of the things that we really do need is to work together as a global community to address this, because it's a global issue.
Okay. Any question, please? We have maybe 5 minutes. 5 minutes. One question more, please. Okay, maybe let me ask Professor Eric. So we are focused now on the spreading this COVID-19. The main spreading way it's normal, it's air. And about soil and water, as you said, it is difficult and complicated relation, because it is not so easy to investigate how soil, and it's still unknown how can soil to be a problem in spreading this virus or something like that. But we can thinking together, as you said. There is no individual solution for this problem. We have to search about a global solution for this problem, because a lot of people now need to work again, need to enjoy their life, to do everything like the previous time. The previous time we try to enjoy. Now the people try to even to work. This is the main problem. Sometimes now we are in the fifth wave, and what the next? We are maybe we expecting maybe next year something happened. some modification for this virus. In my opinion, everybody dreams now with to end this nightmare, because it is what we can do. The scientists need a lot of effort, not just publish many publications, many reviews, many original articles or something like that, but we need to be honest, we need to focus on the main cause for this problem and how we can solve this problem, as you said. In 2 minutes, please, can you conclude this and advise all of us what we can do, please?
And certainly from the soil science perspective, because I mean, the answer to that question is huge, right? With all the different fields that are involved. But from the perspective of the soil science, I think a couple of the things we can do that are most meaningful, one is just revolves around human health in general and quality of foods that are produced. We know that we have, good nutrition value in our foods. We're getting appropriate nutrition to those people who are consuming those foods. That builds immune systems, that helps with overall health. And so the healthier that we can make our communities, our people, the less chance there is for that transmission. So, on the soil science, agricultural science side, food quality is a really big one, a place that we can help. And the other is, probably the other big one is really working to understand that environmental interaction piece with the SARS-CoV-2 virus. When it ends up in soil or it ends up in water, it's in the natural environment. What happens to it? How long does it survive? How can it transfer between different media? And what does that mean in terms of potential transmission to humans? Because that's a great big black box right now. We do know we have found it in soil. We know it can end up there, but we don't know much of anything beyond that. Right now, all of our knowledge, so to speak, on that front is based on work done with other similar viruses and looking at their survivability, their interactions in that soil environment. But we need to know how SARS-CoV-2 behaves and what that means for transmission and such. So I think those are two really big areas that I think soil scientists can play a key role.
Thank you so much again, Professor Eric. I know today, Sunday, it's around 7 a.m. for you, and so early for you to. I know, but
it's okay. It's okay.
we are enjoying it. Yeah, and I think we in the future, the Egyptian Soil Science Society will maximize the collaboration with the scientists like Professor Eric. I can remember now in 2013 we have MOU with the American Journal of Soil Science, Professor Rice. I remember that when I visited and attended a conference. I don't remember. It was in 2014 in Long Beach. I remember. So we have many possibilities to maximize our collaboration, even in the level of societies or on the level of the scientists. Again, I have to thank you so much again, and I hope everybody enjoy our guest, Professor Eric Breivik. And I'm so sorry for any disturbance during the presentation in the first, on the second time or something like that. I'm so sorry. It is the first time for me to manage something like that. So I'm so sorry again for everybody, and I hope everybody enjoy. And we can. I hope we can meet again in the future. Thank you so much again for everybody. Thank you, Professor Eric. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for the invitation to be with you today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It was fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have a good day, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much.